telling y'all we all need to go on a rent strike. Every state all together at the same time. That's the only way they'll stop increasing rent. And what safety nets do you have in place for all of the people who are suddenly going to be unhoused? This is by no means the first time I've seen something like this, but when we're talking about irresponsible organizing, this is what we're talking about. Telling people to put their housing at risk, knowing full well that many of them have nowhere else to go, and if they get evicted, that means they are on the street, to just stop paying rent and do a rent strike without doing any of the work to provide safety and safety nets and support for those people is incredibly irresponsible. There should absolutely be rent caps. Rent should be lower. Rent is insane. The rental market needs more regulation. It's out of control. And yes, a rent strike can be a way to achieve that. But if you do not already have all of these safety nets put in place for the people who are going to be striking, it's going to fall apart incredibly quickly. And the most vulnerable people will be in even worse places than they were at the beginning. You need to have infrastructure in place.
Yeah, so I completely agree with this lady's sentiment. Before I really start breaking this down, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Are you experiencing any kind of rent increases? What is rent looking like in your area? Is it way too high or is it kind of affordable? Personally, I'm in Houston, so it depends on the area, but a lot of the time it's not too bad. Now, when we start to have this conversation about a rent strike, right? I want to know what this looks like. Now, every person, the person that made this tweet says, I'll read it to y'all again, just in case you didn't catch it. Keep telling y'all we all need to go on a rent strike, every state all together at the same time. That's the only way they'll stop increasing rent. My question is, who is the they? Because, I mean, how do you hold landlords accountable necessarily? Like, I'm not saying none of this can be done. I'm just asking the questions. What does this look like? What does the infrastructure that this lady, said needs to be put in place? What does this look like? How do you conduct a rent strike across every state, everyone all together at the same time and get everybody on the same page? That's a pretty large task. That would be probably the largest strike or, protest of any kind, probably in the history of the United States of America. The main reason I really wanted to bring this story to y'all is because it lends to my sentiment in a previous video where we were talking about young adults staying at home and how people, think it's bad for America. And in the video, there was a young lady who was living at her mother's house with her boyfriend. They both were college graduates and, they were working and just saving money, staying at their parents' house. And in that video, I told y'all it is not sweet out here. And the main reason I wanted to cover this story is because I want to show y'all proof that it's really not sweet out here. And the biggest question is, even if everybody did go on a rent strike, would that actually solve anything? Or, are a lot of these landlords and, companies that own, residential properties, BlackRock, would this actually change anything? Would this actually lead to a real solution? Now, instead of continuing to play the video, because this is basically over, it's just a compilation video of a couple of rants, but I thought this one was pretty interesting. I want to take a look at a couple of the comments. And I want y'all to let me know if you guys resonate with these. Got to go out of full screen and zoom in on them. But first comment right here. This is a big reason why no one's having kids anymore either. I can barely afford anything for myself. And I 100% agree. We actually had a conversation about why kids are getting too expensive to have in the United States of America as well. That was a couple of days ago, y'all. Go tap in with that video. Let's say you take, the typical college route through life. You go to a major university, you major in finance, you go to work on Wall Street or wherever, your area has a relatively high cost of living. You got to worry about rent, plus any other costs that just come with being an adult, just existing on top of the cost of everyday goods rising because of inflation. I'm pretty sure that unless family is of high importance to you, having children is probably going to be one of the last things on your mind, which then leads to, although children is the last thing on people's minds, Sex is not the last thing on people's minds, so we then lead to have people, having sex that can't deal with the consequences of if it goes bad. If they do mess up and have a kid, they accidentally have a kid, and now it's like a cycle of poverty that continues throughout the United States, and people can't really get out of it. It's really a crazy game that we playing out here. Let's take a look at some more of the comments. Then they hit you with you have to be making 3 times your rent to qualify. America is a hellscape. I'm currently living with a relative now because of the make 3 times your rent nonsense. I can afford rent and utilities, but I can't move because I don't make 3 times any rent being offered now. And don't get me started on how 1 bedroom costs as much as a 2 bedroom. I would be interested to learn or to know exactly where this person is at, because hey, it's legit. It's valid. Like, we are starting to see studio apartments going for $1,500-$1,600. And if y'all don't know what a studio apartment is, it's literally just 1 room and a bathroom. A mailman in the 50s used to be able to provide for their entire household with just that 1 job. That's what they need to bring back. You have 1 job, you work at least 40 hours, you should be able to provide for your family and yourself. I live in a very small rural area. 6 years ago, rent around here was $500 a month. Now $1,300 is the average. How can people that live in a farming community afford that? Rent is out of control. Within a period of 6 years, an increase from $500 a month to $1,300 a month is insane. Your rent more than doubling, almost tripling in a 6-year period is crazy, especially in a smaller rural community like this. Now, the question that I'm posing is, how do we start to hold landlords and companies that are buying up this real estate? How do we start to hold them accountable? What, as the average worker, as the average person, can we do to bring these prices down? Now, unfortunately, I think that we might need to start having a conversation about redefining what the American dream is, because make no mistake about it, I'm never the person that's gonna sell you guys fear or doom and gloom. I'm just gonna call it how it is. But make no mistake about it, the United States of America is still the safest, most inclusive place to be in the world. And although we might not like how the economy is going, we might not like exactly what's happening, like, we still have to adjust with the times, y'all. And like I said, we may need to start having a conversation about redefining what the American dream is. What is the typical norm for Americans? I know an attorney who owns a bunch of rentals, and I overheard him in a meeting using AI software to raise the rent in every one of them. He bragged about how fast he could kick people out if they were late in payment. I asked him if he ever gave a break to long-time tenants that have been slow to pay for a month, and he just laughed and said, hello, kicked them to the curb. He raises rent every single time a unit comes up for renewal. It's sick. And I agree, it's sick, which is why I believe we need to be having a conversation, and why I want you guys to tap in. What do we do to hold these people accountable? Is a rent strike actually a realistic ask to ask of the American people? Go ahead and drop y'all's thoughts about this in the comments below, man. It's sad. It's sad that we're getting to this point, but give me y'all thoughts. Y'all know I do my best to respond to every single comment dropped on the channel, because I genuinely want to have a conversation with you guys about these topics.